Hello, Carol. Good morning.
Good morning, Nicola. I've always wanted to say from across the pond.
That's right. That's right. It's quite amazing, actually. When I was growing up, America seemed like another planet. I never ever thought that I would get to go to America or be able to speak to people in America. And the internet has changed all of that. The internet makes the world a very small place.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I'm kind of excited too because I've never been to England or any of those places. It's on my bucket list. I have quite a long one.
Well, maybe you will get to come to the UK and come down to Cornwall and visit with us. So,
Yes, and
Carol, we really only sort of met, I say met, on Facebook a couple of weeks ago because you're fairly new to counted cross stitch. But it's been wonderful. I feel as if I've got to know you a little bit through our conversations. Would you like to tell the people who are listening today and watching your background?
okay. Um, well, I've always been involved in arts and crafts. I started a long time ago. I started with quilting, and that's been my forte for 35 years. I've never given that up. I went from traditional quilts to more artsy quilts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got involved in spinning. Well, I was fascinated by that and dyeing it. And then that led to what to do with all of this tremendous amount of yarn that I had produced. David was wondering why these piles were in the corners and, the bathroom and stacks and whatever. So I started weaving. One of my friends had a loom, and then I got a saori loom, which is a Japanese loom, and it's a wonderful, wonderful way to weave. Anyone can do it, anyone literally. And I made some really nice shawls, and but due to some health issues, I've had to stop quilting because it requires standing and weaving and spinning. So I was fascinated by samplers and needle arts, and some of my grandmother's things have enticed me to pursue it. And I just found you on the net, and that's what started me into this kind of journey, which is I haven't really done a cross-stitch piece yet. So
Right.
my first piece is going to be, with your suggestion, Mary Clayton,
Yes.
which I have written.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to some of the answers to my questions today.
Okay. Well, I know because I love to quilt as well. I haven't quilted for about 3 years since Hands Across the Sea Samplers became so busy. But quilting was always my summer craft because my sewing studio has a lovely sort of breeze that blows through in the summer, so it was a nice place to be working. But you're right, quilting is hard physical work. Whether you've got your quilt out and you're bending over, pinning it, or to whether you're literally pushing all that fabric through a machine to quilt. It is hard work. So I can understand why maybe you are being attracted to needlework now. Okay, so when you contacted me, you had actually bought Eye of the Sparrow and Sarah Brazier, which are two very large samplers, and
Yes.
both of them a beginner can stitch, but they are very large samplers. So the reason I suggested Mary Clayton to you was that she was smaller, and I felt that she would have been more manageable, because what you'll notice is that as you start to stitch, you will grow as a needleworker. And Mary being small, she can be sort of like your guinea pig piece. And by the time you get to Mary, you would have settled into your cross stitching, the tension of your stitching, and it'll give you the opportunity to decide whether cross stitching is for you. And if it is for you, then you can make the investment on buying the linen and all the silks that you need for a large project, and then you can settle down with that project and have hundreds and hundreds of hours of joy from working it. I love a big project. It gives you this lovely time to bond with the little girl that stitched the sampler originally. So that's why I suggested, Mary, a small project to cut your teeth on. Now, one of the questions that you had for me was, what do you actually need to start a sampler? Well, not a lot. You need the chart, and then you need a piece of linen and a needle,
Right.
and some thread and some scissors. And that really is all you need to stitch. What you end up with is an entirely different story. My husband went out for a walk this morning, and when he came back, I had got out all the things that I use. And when he came home, he said to me, he said, "Are you moving? Are you leaving me?" We don't need a lot, but we end up with so much. Okay, so one of your questions was, what do you have in your daily stitch kit? I like to stitch in a little stitching nest. It's an armchair, and by the side of my armchair I have a side table that has lots of little drawers, so I can keep things in the various drawers. And then I have my large stitching light. Now, light is very important when you stitch. Light is almost more important than magnification, because if you have good light, you can see things that much more clearly. So when I am stitching in my stitching nest, I have a big floor stand. Okay, and this floor stand is by the Daylight Company, and the reason I like this one, unfortunately, because we're sharing a split screen, I can't get all of this in my half of the screen to show you. But the reason I chose this light was that it has a very, very long reach, and this head is extremely flexible. So I can get the angle of the light in exactly the right position. And when you stitch in a family room, if your husband is sat in that room watching television or reading, the one thing he doesn't want is having this light shining in his eyes. My husband often says to me, "Your light's in my eyes." And with this, it's so flexible, you can direct the light exactly where you want it to go. This light is an LED light, and it's daylight. Years ago, I used to work under a light that wasn't made specifically for needlework, and it was just a normal light bulb, and that light is quite yellowish. With a daylight light, the light is pure and it's showing colours exactly as they are. I like an LED light bulb, because a traditional light bulb, you can get really hot working under it. I always remember I must have been working very close to the old lamp, and it was literally burning the top of my head, the heat from it. So LED is very important. Plus, in the UK, electricity is very expensive, and LED uses a lot less electricity, so therefore it's more friendly, to our environment. So that's my main light, and it has a heavy floor stand on wheels, so I can just literally wheel it around, and then I can just fold it up and pop it down and push it out of the way when I'm not using it. A little tip: if you're using something that has a magnifier, never leave the magnifier uncovered, because many house fires have started through sunlight coming through the magnifier and creating a burn, and you can have a house fire. Many fires are started that way, so always religiously cover it up.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's very important, very important. Now, we don't always stitch in our little stitching nests, so I have some other forms of lighting, and this little lamp is also by the Daylight Company, and it's called a halo lamp. And this is a really super little lamp that I use for travelling with. So this is a Daylight halo lamp, and it has a really nice solid base. And when I'm travelling, more often than not, this will sit on the arm of a chair in a hotel room or a sofa. And I can stitch with this because hotel rooms very rarely have good lighting for stitching.
Right.
And with this light, the angle that you can put the light in is just amazing. So, you know,
Is this also a daylight product?
It is a daylight lamp, and it's, oh gosh, I get so confused with the angles of the camera. It's also a magnifier as well.
Oh.
You have a little magnifier there, and you have a hotspot to give you a boosted magnification. Can you just see? It has a little hotspot.
Yes, I can.
This rotates around, so you can put this exactly the same spot. Because when you're working under a magnifier, what happens? You find you're working and you're holding your neck in a set position. You really want to have lights that move to suit your position, not you having to work for a long time in a forced position. The other thing that's really nice about this light is that this rotates as well, so it's very flexible. And another little tip, if you're in a hotel room with bad lighting, this is fantastic for putting your makeup on.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, it works. So it just folds flat, and you can just pop it into a little case. Now, the other thing with these, they come in two different strengths of magnification, and they either have a white arm or this is a chrome arm, and they're different strengths of magnification. You need to go onto the Daylight Company's website to find out which is which, because I can't remember. My brain doesn't hold information like that these days. Now, this case you can buy from Joann's or Hobby Lobby, places like that, and it's made by everythingmary.com, and it's actually a knitting needle case, but it's a perfect size for your travel lamp, and it's hard shelled. So this is a really good thing to have. I'm very pleased with this. Okay.
Right.
Now, if I was on a plane, or if I was somewhere that I couldn't set up with my lamp, then I would use a Mighty Bright clip-on lamp. And basically, these clip onto your hoop, your Q-snaps, whatever you're using, and you can even clip it onto something like, I don't know, a bedstead or a shelf. And it has a flexible arm, and I haven't got my batteries in this one, but I think this one has 2 or 3 different settings of light. You have this type of head, or you have a hammerhead. I prefer the hammerhead because you have a greater spread of light. Okay.
It looks similar to something I had that clipped on a book, so I could read in the middle of the night when David was sleeping.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
These are great for book reading as well. So those are handy to have if you plan to stitch on trains, planes, and automobiles. I do a lot of
Okay.
stitching on planes, and these are very, very useful things to have. I often get asked, how do you stitch on a plane? Well, I always book a window seat because that gives you the best light. And
Yeah, that's important.
because I am right-handed, I like to sit with the window on my left, so I don't have a shadow, because if I'm stitching right-handed, the light will be falling on my hand, and that blocks the light of my stitching area. I do stitch two-handed, but if I'm using a hoop, I would stitch with my right hand, so I want the light coming from the left.
Ah, I wouldn't have thought of that.
It makes a difference, actually. It does. Yeah, it does. So that's always book a window seat and the opposite to which is your dominant hand.
Okay.
So besides light, when I'm stitching, I don't stitch in hand. When you say stitch in hand, it means that you don't have anything to support your fabric. You are literally just holding your fabric in your hand. There's lots of different things that you can use. This is somebody who predominantly uses a frame. I only use a hoop when I'm traveling. And today I thought, let's see what hoops I'm going to talk about. So this is a collection of hoops. This is probably my oldest hoop, the hoop I started with. This is an old hoop. I've sewn a lot of things with this hoop. In fact, the screw broke many years ago and I cobbled up a little catch for it. Why I didn't buy a new one, I don't know, but there we are. So hoops come in all different sizes and shapes. My smallest hoop is, gosh, it's really tiny. That's a 3-inch embroidery hoop. And I expect this one has got to be ordered 12 inches. They come in all different shapes and sizes. Recently, I've discovered Hardwick Manor hoops, and I really, really like these hoops very, very much. You have the little logo, which indicates it's a Hardwick Manor hoop. The reason I like these hoops so much is that they are fabulously well made. The wood is lovely. The screw to tighten and loosen it is substantial, and this product is one that will last you a lifetime. It's really, really nice. This is the 5/8 depth of one, and the reason I prefer these to something like this one, if I'm holding this one, because it's so thin, I have to hold it quite firmly, and if I'm stitching for a couple of hours, your hand really gets very, very stiff because you're clenching your hand to hold it.
Right.
Whereas if you use a Hardwick Manor hoop, because it's deeper, you don't have to grip. You know, it sits in your hand. See, if I held this one like that, it will just fall through. This one I have to hold firmly. This one just rests in my hand, and I found this was much, much nicer to use from my hand point of view. And I also found that this was much kinder to my fabric. Okay, now
that's important for me because, and I'm sure others, because not that it happens only with older age. A lot of people are young and have arthritis, but I'm developing a lot of problems with my hands, so I have to save them, for special times.
Yeah, I also have one that's 7/8, which is even deeper, which I really, really love. But it's in my craft bag, which is in my car. So I didn't have it to bring out this morning, but these are really, really lovely. And when I go back to the States in August, I'm going to buy some more of these in different sizes. I like to be able to put my hands on things when I want them. So if I have a couple, I've got less chance of losing them. So that is really, really a great hoop. The other thing...
You must need an extra suitcase when you come to the States for all the goodies.
I actually did bring back an extra suitcase, and it was really full as well. Now, with hoops, a hoop that is, I think, really, really beautiful, and I've been after one of these for a very, very long time, and I've recently acquired one, is, oh, just a second. Thank you. Sorry about that. I recently was lucky enough to acquire one of these, and this is a vintage Queen's hoop. And these are very, very old, very, very beautiful. They have a built-in felt rim, which helps grip your fabric. And they have a very different tightening mechanism. You just turn this little knob, and it tightens the frame. And I don't know why I'm so attracted to these. They're beautifully made, but I think it's because when you hold them in your hand, you feel the previous person who stitched with them somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're vintage, you know, this has probably had thousands of hours of use by somebody, maybe more than one person. So this is another hoop that I have.
That's lovely.
It is lovely.
I have my grandmother's thimble.
Yeah.
And put that on sometimes just to feel her presence, you know, and I kind of sit it where I work just so I can see it.
Yeah, it's very special. So
yeah.
I have a 7-inch and I have a 5-inch one of these, and these were a gift from a very dear friend, which makes them all the more special. So there we are. Now you mentioned about Q-snaps. I used to stitch with Q-snaps, and in fact I had to go hunting for these this morning, and I came up with quite a large Q-snap. You can buy much smaller Q-snaps than these, and I started with hoops, then I went to Q-snaps before I discovered the right wooden frame for me. Thinking back to using Q-snaps, and it's many, many years since I've used them, I think the biggest thing was that the fabric gets loose as you're stitching with them. And I remember having to put some quilt wadding between the arms and the frame to hold the fabric. And I think that what happens, these pieces of plastic that grip the linen onto the frame, I think what happens, they get loose, and as you can see, this one is very loose. So I think that is the downside of Q-snaps. And I seem to remember from my blogging days that a few people suggested putting these in the freezer and they tighten back up again, but I really don't know, and if anybody's listening, please don't go putting these in the freezer without investigating it a little bit further, because I could have recalled that incorrectly. But these do get very, very loose. You can see that. That's not going to hold anything.
Right.
This is a tight one. So that's a
and there's really nothing in that item, there's nothing to tighten it with, where
you place your fabric over and it hangs over, and then you just clamp it into position with these pieces. It's a long time since I've used this. I've got to stop and think. And basically these break down. They're just plastic tubes. So they all break down into pieces like this. And you can build them into different shapes and sizes. Like I had this one set up so that it was square, but you could set it up in like an oblong using different size pieces.
Okay.
There we are. And the other thing with these, if you use When I had my Q-snaps, I had a Lowry stand. And a Lowry stand is a fabulous stand. It's very substantial, very solid. I have a stainless steel one. And you have a metal base which you pop under the leg of your chair, and it's your weight on the chair that helps stabilize it. Then
Oh.
it comes up and over, and it has a clamp, and that clamp would clamp onto the side of your Q-snap or your frame, and then you would tighten it. And what happens when you do that, this might not be very visible, but this is actually, it's no longer round, it's got squashed by the clamp.
Oh.
So that was a downside of the Q-snaps, that if you apply pressure on a clamp to hold them, they're not strong enough to resist being squashed. Okay, but the Lowry stand is a very, very good substantial stand. Like I haven't got my Lowry stand any longer, but you know, that was a good buy, and it suited the purpose when I was using it. What I stitch with now are Needle Needs products, and with that I use a Millennium frame. And the wonderful thing about the Millennium frame is the tension that you can achieve with this. You tighten it, and you can literally play the drums on your project.
Huh?
You get this lovely tight tension, and there's no need to lace the sides of your project, and it's very, very easy to put the fabric on. You have a groove that's cut out of the frame, and a dowel sits in this groove, and you put your fabric in the groove, and then you run the dowel down, and it's the tension of the sidebars that lock the dowel into place, because the dowel is wider than the entrance of the groove, and that's what holds it. And it's fabulous. I'm a big supporter of these products because the quality is just so good. And when you have a needs frame, you have a lap stand come table stand to support it, and your frame will sit on here, and because it's not locked into place, if you want to access the back of your work, you are literally just flipping your frame over.
Oh.
I need a big table here. So if your frame is sitting on your lap stand like this, to access the back, that's all you have to do. So it's very, very easy to use and to handle, which is great. And also, I have a floor stand, and when I'm stitching at home, I predominantly use my floor stand, and it has the same principle. You have these arms that your project sits on, and this I use when I'm travelling. Like obviously I wouldn't get this out if I was sat on a plane, but I carry it in my luggage, and when I get to where I'm going, I would use this in the class or the retreat, or you know, I'll be packing this next week, and this will be coming on holiday with me. This you know, it folds down flat literally, and it doesn't take up much room in your suitcase, although it does take up you know, your weight allowance.
Right.
But I would prefer to take this than, you know, a pair of shoes and a handbag.
Gave up that. Can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
Is that what is that called if you were going to order that from John?
That is an Aristo stand, and you can choose to have it as a lap stand, which comes with shorter support arms, or as a
Okay.
tabletop stand which comes with longer arms, or you can choose to have the ultimate Aristo stand which comes with both of them. And a short while ago I did a video, an updated video about the new ultimate Aristo stand, so you could go to my Flosstube channel and just look back and find that video, and I talk about it in much greater depth.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, now the other thing you can use to support a project is a stand that you actually sit on, and this is a clamp that clamps your hoop into it to hold your hoop. Now I haven't used this for many years. In fact, I had to get this out of the cupboard and get the cobwebs off it. Note to self, I've got to clean that cupboard. This was great at the time, but I think that I've moved past this with my needle products. But you know, you can use this to hold a hoop, you sit on it, and then you can stitch two-handed.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
It goes on and on and on what you can get.
Right. Oh, there's so many things.
So many things. So the next thing you need really is your little tools. And you asked me about needles.
Yes.
I use John James needles, and my favourite needle to use is a number 28 tapestry needle. But to talk about needles, you really need a programme or a Needlework Natters just for that topic. What I would advise anybody to do who would like to find out more about needles is to go onto the John James website, and they have a whole section devoted to needles, and you can print off lots of different facts about needles. There's several pages, and they talk you through all the different types of needles that they do and what you use them for.
Okay.
So, you know, it would be good for you to log on to the John James website and have a read, and they have these fact sheets that you can print off for ease of reference.
Okay, that sounds great. I'll do that.
So I would do that. And we can always have another chat about needles after you've researched this yourself a little bit.
Okay.
I always think the most confusing thing about needles is the smaller the eye of the needle, the higher the number of the needle.
Oh.
Like I would have, before I sort of realised, I would have thought a number 26 needle was big. Sorry, it was. No, I'm getting this the wrong way around now. Yeah, the lower the number, so I would have thought a number 26 was smaller, but it's not. It's the other way around. The higher the number, when it comes to tapestry needles, the smaller the needle.
Oh, it's confusing.
It is confusing. So visit John James' website. It's the website address is jneedles.com. All right, so that's a good one to visit. Then I suppose really it's what do you have to store your needles. I like collecting pin cushions and spools, the spool holders. These are really, really lovely, and I love collecting these. And I'm quite lucky, I've got several, and I have these in different positions throughout the house. Little drawer there.
I love that one.
They're beautiful. Now, all three of these have been made by Richard Hires.
Oh, they're new. I thought they were antiques.
No, they are all new. And they're made by this gentleman called Richard Hires, hireswood.com or something like that, his website. And that's another website to visit. But you'll end up spending money.
Yeah, I'm finding that out even before I started that I'm collecting too much.
There we are. And you can go all the way down to like a little simple needle case that you can pop your needles in.
Okay.
I think wood is so lovely to feel and to have and to treasure. And then I suppose really the most basic of ways of storing your needle is a little bit of board, a little brad holding a little piece of felt, and you can pop some needles on that. And that's something you can make yourself very easily.
Right.
This is one that I had from Sassy Jack Stitchery, and it has the tree that you find on Esther Benson, which is a beautiful sampler that's exclusively available at Sassy Jack Stitchery. But that's very sweet. You see, you don't need a lot to make something to store them. This is a lovely little needle case that a friend made for me. It has a little boxer dog on. We both have boxers. Carol made this and gifted it to me, and it's very pretty. She's cross-stitched a little pattern, and she's made a heavier felt for the outside cover and lighter weight felt for the inside cover. So that you can just have something like this. This is one that goes everywhere with me, that was gifted to me by a friend.
That's nice.
It's lovely. Gosh, and they just go on and on and on, what you can do. This is nice. This is a little roll. And there's a pocket here to put things in. And you can put skeins of silks through there. You can tie your scissors on with this. And then you have your little bit of felt, so you can put your needles. And then in here, this is lovely. There's a little pocket. And inside the pocket is a little aught bag. And that's where you put your threads as you're stitching, your tail ends. I just think that's...
Is that made for you? That's wonderful.
Yes, yeah. These are made by Elizabeth or Beth at the Attic Needleworks, and you can buy one of these from Jean at the Attic, and they're just lovely. They're so well made. Now, I have a little bit of a set with this one. I have a pin cushion, and these are also made by Beth, and these all coordinate. They're all little bees, and they all coordinate with this set. And then I have a needle roll that matches.
Oh.
And these are really wonderful. I've got a lot of I've got about 4 or 5 samplers in this, and
wonderful for traveling.
Pardon?
Wonderful for traveling.
Oh, absolutely, and wonderful to store antique samplers in here. Let me just open it up a second. Let me just put these to one side. Now, at the moment, I have the thigh stored in here. So that's she's stored in here, and this one was purpose made for the thigh. And basically, what I've got here, this is a piece of quilt wadding, and as a quilter, I expect you have lots of odd sized pieces of quilt wadding and fabric, and basically it's a wooden pole with 2 it's like curtain ends on, and then the quilt wadding means that the sampler will almost grip to the quilt wadding, and then you can just roll it up. And the other thing I find that with the quilt wadding, I can actually put 2 samplers in, because I can put one behind as well.
Oh, right.
So
that's great.
They are wonderful. They are really, really wonderful. So that's useful. And with your quilting background, I'm sure you've got all the supplies you need to...
I have tons.
...to make these. So I have a few of these. I know that Elizabeth's on holiday at the moment. When she gets back, I'm going to have her make me some more. They're very, very useful indeed. I also have lots of other project bags. They go on and on and on, my project bags. This one is a great idea because it has a little plastic wallet on the zip, so I can actually mark on here what's in the project bag.
Right.
They go on.
Yeah.
And this one is a fabric one, but it has a clear front. If they're clear, you can see what's inside them.
That's a great idea.
Which is very, very handy. I also like some of the smaller ones as well, because you can put your threads and your scissors and your little bits and bobs in for travelling with those.
Right.
There you go. I got so many of them.
Oh, you too.
This one.
Well,
and then I have lots and lots of these clear bags from the attic, and I can see exactly what's in them. Sometimes I've picked up what I think is one project, and when I've got where I'm going, I realise that I've picked something up that wasn't what I thought it was. So these come in all shapes and sizes, and they're very, very useful. In fact, sometimes I have to hunt for an empty one to use. Okay, so any sort of little bag I will keep. You know, sometimes even when you go and buy makeup, they come in little bags. Anything like this is worth keeping to put your threads for a project in. Gosh, I've got so much here, so much. I suppose then, you know, you need to think about maybe some little pin cushions.
Yes.
This is a little sweet one. That's the little motif taken from the sample of Anne Forfeit's.
Beautiful. Aww.
She's so sweet. And this is gorgeous. This was a gift from a friend, and this is all tatting, little tatted heart both sides, and then you can use that as a little pin keep. And you never have enough of these. You really don't. Now this is great. This is a strawberry, and you can hang this off the side of your stand, and you can put your needles in. It's very, very pretty. Very pretty. I love little things like this. You'll build up a huge collection of them. Scissors. Although while we're talking of needles, needle nannies, these are a great idea. Basically, they are, you can get little badges, little charms, like they're almost like brooches, and basically they have a magnet on the back, and then you clamp them on your fabric to hold your needle. And I know that you have dogs. The last thing you want is to have a needle on the floor and then your dog picks it up and gets it in his paw or he swallows it. I used to have many, many needles threaded up and in the side of my work, and then one of the ladies in a group I belonged to, she posted about how her dog has swallowed a needle and had to have an operation. So now I only got to about 2 needles on the go, and I use a needle nanny so they're clamped to it, so I know where they are.
Right. Oh, that's important. Yeah. You can't keep the dogs out of the studio or the parlor while you're watching TV. They're right at my feet. Not.
So they come in all different shapes and sizes. My latest 2 are ones I brought back from my visit to Sassy Jack's, and these are very, very sweet. That's the little moon taken from Esther Benson's sampler.
Oh, yes.
Very, very pretty. And then this one is taken from Harriet Salt, the Bristol sampler.
Oh, this one's too, yeah.
That is
Oh,
lovely.
that's wonderful. So you put that with your project, and I love all this. I don't know, just love the
Look at
all the
this
different
one.
things that go with it. It's so nice to just have all those things with you and to use them. I collect all those things too.
Yeah, I got my little bee one.
Oh, I love that.
That is just gorgeous. A lady gave me this in the States on my last visit, and I just absolutely adore it. I think it's just so sweet.
Oh, it is, yeah. I had asked you about that one.
Yeah, but I don't know where it came
Yes.
from. It was a gift.
Right.
I did a post where I showed it, and I've had so many messages from people asking me where it came from, but I don't know.
Right.
Then the next thing really will be scissors, and scissors are a whole world, and ways to store your scissors. My basic scissors are these, and I travel with these, and the reason I travel with them, they have a very, very small blade, and when we travel, when we leave London at Heathrow, there's a big sign that says that there's no scissors larger than a 6 centimetre blade. Now, this blade is nowhere close to 6 centimetres, so these are perfectly legal, but I would never travel in my hand luggage scissors that I can't afford to lose. Okay, because you may get a security guard that's being a little bit pedantic, and they might confiscate them. You don't argue with security guards at airports. Like I've had liquids confiscated before that were under 100 mils, which is the legal limit, that they weren't happy and they just took them. I've never, touch wood, had my scissors confiscated, but these are only about somewhere between $5 and $10. So if they were confiscated, it's not the end of the world. Yes. So they're very small, but actually these are very good scissors. So those are my travelling scissors, and I tend to buy these if I see them, because you don't always see such strong scissors with such a short blade. I have many, many different types of scissors. I like putting on scissor fobs, because if you have a scissor fob, it means if your scissors are easier to see, they're less likely to lose them. Now, I say that with my tongue in my cheek, because I'm always losing my scissors, always. More often than not, they've gone down the side of the chair, and a scissor fob helps you retrieve them. But also a scissor fob, if this is in a bag and you put your hand in your pouch, you've got more chance of feeling it with a fob. And these fobs, they come in all different designs. This one reminds me of America, because it's got a cowboy boot on the end of it. And I like to coordinate them with my projects. So I've got a few different ones here. They're very pretty. We all like things that shine and
that make us happy.
Yeah, keeps us happy. This is a lovely gift from a friend, and I think it's La Di La or something like that. They make these, and or they supply these, and you make them up. And basically, it's just a square box with a hole, and you can just pop your scissors in.
Very nice.
It's just a simple, cute little design. Very, very effective. You just pop your scissors and they're there on the side for you when you want them. You can have scissors which you wear around your neck. So that's handy. You shouldn't be able to lose them if they're around your neck. You also can buy these are magnets, and you would pop this. This is a very, very strong magnet, actually. Now, if you've got a pacemaker, you can't wear these because it's magnetic. But basically, you would put that on your item of clothing, and you would just have your scissors and you would wear it like that.
Never seen that. That's a good idea.
And then to use it, you've got quite a long cord. But, when I did a video about this, quite a few people said, oh, you mustn't wear those if you've got a pacemaker, and they are correct. If you've got a pacemaker, you shouldn't be wearing anything that's magnetic. And the magnet is very, very strong on these. But that's very handy. And it's pretty as well. I want to take that off. This magnet is unbelievably strong on this. And these come in all different shapes and sizes. This one is a little bee skep. I know that you like bees.
I do, yeah. They're my favorite thing.
Yeah. So it's very pretty indeed. So that's something else for storing scissors. I love this little scissor fob. This is made by Madonna Snell Baker, and I think her company might be Samplings of Memories, and that's really, really pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that you can put on your scissors, it helps you to stop losing. It helps them disappear in between other things.
Right.
With scissors as well, I have a pair of hard Angus scissors, which I use for cutting threads on my linen. That's got a very sharp, pointed edge, and it's curved. So those are useful when it comes to scissors. See, the list goes on and on and on. And then you get to, collecting scissors. These are a pair of Monsieur Roulet scissors. They're very, very beautiful scissors. These are, the haute couture of scissors, really. Very, very beautiful. And these all come in these beautiful little wooden cases that are hand carved for each pair. So this box will only fit these scissors.
No, that's lovely. I've seen you tempt us with those on your videos. You place them on the linen.
Yes, yes. They're just very special to use. Very, very special. Now, you asked me about storing threads.
I did.
For the reels, I like to use these acrylic little boxes, and then they've just got little pull-out drawers. Okay. Now, these are actually makeup storage boxes. If you go onto Amazon and look for acrylic makeup storage, you'll get lots of different versions of these come up. They needed organising anyway. Right, so yeah, so I've got that for storing spools. Now, I hope I don't have the same accident with this, because this is quite heavy. This is a beautiful Dmc Storage Chest.
Oh, that's lovely.
It is lovely, isn't it? Really, really nice. These are sold with all the Dmc flosses, so they are quite expensive, but occasionally you see them come up without any flossing at all, and they are quite a bit cheaper then. And I bought mine, I just happened to see it come up for sale without the flossing, and that's when I bought it. And that's lovely. It's a nice piece of furniture for the house.
Oh, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Oh, it came with the threads.
Sorry?
It came with the threads?
You can buy them with every single Dmc stranded cotton colour in, but they're very expensive because you're not only just buying the unit, you're buying a whole range of threads.
Oh,
so
that would be wonderful to get in the mail.
Yeah. With my silks, I tend to keep them in floss away bags, and I have very large rings, and these are in numerical order, and I've got many, many of these rings, if I'm going to pull threads for a project, I will put them onto smaller hoops, because you can get these hoops in all different sizes, and then I will pull them and put them on these, and then they will hang on the side of my stand.
Do you keep them in order of color or number?
Number.
Number, okay.
Yeah, because I just think that's a much better way. When you look at the Auvera Soie d'Alger silks, there are so many of them that to put them in, you couldn't really put them in colour order, because you know, some of the colours are so similar, you really have to look at them. And then, you know, if you were going to pull threads for a project, you would be pulling them by number anyway. So
Okay.
Keep them in numerical order. Like when you pull them to put on a ring to use, you know, you might group them by colour, but to store your collection silks, it's much better to store them numerically. It's easier to see what you have or you haven't got then. Some people like to store their threads on thread cards. You shouldn't really wind your d'Alger silk around these. It's much better to keep those in the floss away bags. But a lot of people do use those, and they use little thread winders. So you would wind your threads around that. Another bee.
That's wonderful. I like the bag idea though.
Yes. And then you can use horn books. So you would get your threads for a project and you would loop them through these holes. Then you would hang that from the side of your stand, and you would have all your threads on those. They come in all different shapes and sizes. This is a good one because it also has a ruler built into the edge.
Oh, yeah, that is great.
And then you would put like a ribbon through that hole and it would hang. This is a little butterfly threads storage. Very sweet. When you get into wooden items, there's lots of things you can get. Little rulers, that's nice. That came from Sassajack Stitchery. You'll find a lot of stores have these with their own names on. I've got some lovely thread keeps from the attic, but I couldn't put my hands on those today when I was looking quickly. You know, you can store things in little baskets. This is a little box I made. Put things in. It just goes on and on and on. I suppose one of the little tools that I have in my bag that I use, I don't want to use it because if I have to unpick, this is very, very handy. It has a little LED light.
Oh.
And it has a magnifier, and it has a set of tweezers. So if you wanted to pull anything that's very small out of your fabric, you can use that to see it. Because when you unpick, sometimes you have some fluff that remains. So you can pick them out with those. That's very, very useful. I bought this off Amazon, and I think it's a magnified tweezer. It's something like that you put in, those will come up. A thread unpicker, a seam ripper. But use these with great caution. You do not want to put a hole in your fabric.
I've used those many times with quilting.
You have to be so careful.
Yeah.
Some pins, they're always useful. The fancy pins that I have here, they're great counting pins. So you can count your threads. They're lovely. And, you know, the other thing is magnification. Besides that big magnifier, you can, you know, this is something that you wear on your head. and then this comes down and you look through it that way to stitch. You can
dentist.
Yes. Every time I go to the dentist, I think I'd love to ask her if I could try her glasses on.
Oh, how about those? Aren't they wonderful?
They are. They're probably very, very expensive.
I would think so, yeah.
If I can open the box, I could show you what's inside. If I could open the box.
That's what your husband is for.
So this clips on your glasses. So that will clip on your glasses, and then you have these little lenses that will clip onto that, which will boost the strength of your glasses.
Oh, okay.
And they come in all different strengths. Now you can see I have a lot of stuff I've accumulated over the years. A lot of this, I never use these. What I found, it was easier because I'm fortunate. I've got the same prescription for both eyes. I found it was easier just to buy readers off the shelf of different strengths of magnification to use for different projects. The higher the count of linen, the stronger the readers that I use to see.
Okay.
But not everybody has the same prescription in both eyes. But if you need to get stronger glasses for stitching, explain to your optician what you want them for. Like I had a pair of glasses made by my opticians, and I actually took in my embroidery stand and frame, and he worked out the distance that I work from my project, because it's not only strength, it's the distance you're working that has an effect on your prescription for your glasses.
Okay.
That's why some people have readers or reading glasses for using on the computer to actually read in a book, because they're at different distances.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does, yes. I know I find that the glasses I have now with the linen, I was just practicing, I have to hold the linen right here.
Yeah.
So obviously my glasses aren't made well for stitching.
Yeah, so you just need to get different glasses. Now this is something that you might have, one of these.
Oh, yes I do.
You don't see these in needlework stores. These are for quilters, and this is fabulous. You can just put it on your arm, and you've got lots of different pockets that you can put things in. And this is very, very handy. We ought to see these more in cross-stitch stores. This is great. I love this. But you can see it's a lot of my quilting supplies, my craft supplies are in this. And that really is a good cross-section of what you need to stitch.
Okay, you got a good start.
You got your Christmas list sorted out?
No, my Christmas list spent for the next couple of years.
I know. Mine too. But there we are.
I have some charts prepared.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what some people use on their threads is Thread Heaven, which is like wax. I don't like using this, and I think if you're using a beautiful silk like Dargé or the 103, you don't need to put this on. And I also think that this is something that could attract insects to have a munch on your needlework. So I'm not a big fan of anything to put on your threads, although there are some threads that you do need it to be able to stitch on. So there we are. I don't know how long we've been talking for, but I think we've covered, I think we've actually been talking for over an hour, so we've covered a lot. Is there anything that you would quickly like to ask me before we finish?
One thing that I really would like to ask you is, I had so many questions, but I would love to know where you could find, like, all the research that you do, like for websites, books,
Okay,
things like that. Is that too much to ask now?
no. With books, my favourite books are the Fella books. And this is Fella collection number 2. And this is a book that showcases the collection of Michael and Elizabeth Fellers. Now, these books are out of print, and because of that, they are very expensive. There's 2 books, Fellers 1, Fellers 2. When you start your journey with needlework, there's always going to be books that came before your time and are out of print and maybe are too expensive. But new books will come out, and if you see a book come out, buy it, and then you've got it for your bookshelf. Keep an eye out in thrift stores for these out of print books. Like, I've seen this book for over £1,000 on Amazon.
Oh, really?
But you never know, you could go into a thrift store or a garage sale and pick one up.
Great.
So, those 2 books are probably my favourite books. And then another wonderful book is The Good Heart Samplers. Again, this book is out of print. They're books that were published a few years ago, but you may get to see these come up. Wonderful, wonderful reference books. Naomi Tarrant's book, Remember Now Thy Creator. This is out of stock on Amazon, but I wondered if the museums in Scotland may still have copies in the museum bookstore.
Oh.
But if you see this book, it's Remember Now Thy Creator by Naomi Tarrant. It's all about Scottish samplers. And I would suggest, maybe emailing or seeing if the museums of Scotland actually have an online bookstore. You might be able to get copies there. But I just happened to notice the other day that it was out of stock on Amazon. A book that is out of print is the Norfolk Imitation and Improvement, the Norfolk Sampler Tradition. This is the Bible on Norfolk samplers, and again, this is a most beautiful book. You'll learn so much from reading this book. What other books? I think those are my favourite books. We've been talking about needlework tools. Now, if you like tools, this is an amazing book. This is in print. It's written by Dawn Cook Rollingen. She's a member of our Sampler Years on Facebook, which you've joined. This is a book that you can get very, very easily. You can buy it direct from her, or you can get it from needlework stores. And this is, well, you'll just get totally lost in this book. It is full of so many goodies. So this is a book that you can easily source today and get many, many hours of pleasure from.
Well, it's still early here, so I can do some shopping when we're done.
Now, I love the book of days that Needlework Press produces every year, and it's just always so lovely to have. And so they come out every year, and it's always full of lovely little sayings taken from samplers, and I just love these books, and you build up quite a little collection of them. Those are worth getting every year.
Okay.
So,
Is that something from England or?
no. Vicky lives in Arizona. Vicky and Megan at Needlework Press. Now, I know that you have bought some fabric from the Attic Needleworks. If you message Jean, I'm sure that she will have these in stock. And you can just buy them every year, and you build up a lovely collection of them in the end. I know that you mentioned that you just had the DVD or CD for sampler and antique needlework.
Yes.
I came into cross stitch a little bit after these had started. I was lucky, I managed to build up a collection of, I think it's about 80 of them. They started back in, I don't know, 1919 maybe. It's quite a while ago. These magazines are just jammed packed with charts, articles, very interesting articles actually. And you'll see these, if you want to get the actual magazines, you'll see them come up on eBay. Some of them you have to pay quite a bit of money for, but they are delightful. But you know, you can buy the CD, DVD with all of them on.
So I think it's from 1991 to 2015.
Right.
You can print out the charts.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as the hard copy magazine.
No, it's not. I like having things in my hands. So, you know, I subscribed to the magazine when I became aware of it, and I just sourced all the back copies over a few years.
Right.
So that's a great source of information, and varied information. You know, it was always lovely waiting to see what would come out in the next edition. So yeah, those are great. But you know, there'll always be new books coming out. Recently, there was the Delaware book has just come out. That's lovely. That's really, really nice. So you just have to keep an eye open. And what you'll find is that if a museum puts on an exhibition, they normally produce an exhibition catalogue, and those are well worth getting. They're very interesting.
Okay, I'm excited. I have some things to do.
Your husband won't be.
There's so many questions, so you really helped me.
Good.
I'll do it again. I have so many more questions.
Okay, well, we can do this again. There is so much, but honestly, really, all you do need is that is all that you need to start. But you know, it's like everything else. You like all the little extras that come with it.
Right.
So there we are. Anyway, have a little think about what we talked about. If you have any questions, you know you can come back to me. Oh, I know the one question you've asked me I haven't answered is, what is a thread legend?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm interested in that. I got some package from the attic, and she sent this little package, and it said the legend, and I was like, what does that mean?
Okay. It's a list of threads you need for your project. That's all it is. A thread legend is a list of threads needed for that project.
Oh, simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the reason I know the answer was because I had to ask that question once. And never be afraid to ask anything. If you're thinking of something, somebody else is thinking the same question as well.
Okay. So no question is stupid.
Never, ever. No, never, ever. It's like, you know, and we all use abbreviations. Like you'll hear a lot of people talk about AVAS. Well, what's AVAS? It's a there soir. But if you don't ask the question, you never know.
Right. Okay. I just learned what HATS meant, and I was like really excited when I saw the Mary Clayton thing.
Hands across the sea.
Hands across the sea. I was like, oh my God.
Well, hands across the sea samples is such a mouthful to say. But
Right.
you know, it's easier to call it hats.
Well, I did that one on my own, so I was kind of proud of that.
There's lots of abbreviations, so there we are. It's a learning curve.
I'm excited. I think I'm going to start organizing my threads for Mary Clayton this afternoon.
Yeah, and
The housework will have to wait.
I get up early in the morning to get mine done. Then I can
Really
sit.
quickly, right?
Yeah, well, yes, and then you know you can sit and enjoy. Because I think if you do the needlework first, you'll have in the back of your mind, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and you can't really enjoy it with a clear conscience.
Right. I have the luxury of not having to need a lot of sleep, so
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to a lot of stitching at night.
yeah,
I have to get that light. That's my first
yeah.
investment.
Lights are important, and the quality of the light that comes out of it. That LED daylight lamp. I don't mean the daylight company. I mean a daylight coloured lamp will make a big difference to you. So there we are. Anyway,
Excited.
okay. For now, bye.